But that might be a good transition. The world on Twitter might not be so pretend if Elon Musk manages to get his hands on it.
Well, it's a good segue, Robert, and this is the one where I need your insights on this because I know what I think, and I know the questions I have. I guess let's start with the class action lawsuit that has been filed but not yet certified against Elon Musk. I did a breakdown of it. What day is it today? Sunday? I think I did it yesterday. I don't even know what week is it. Bottom line, the class action lawsuit that is seeking certification alleges that shareholders who were not duly advised as required by the SEC that Elon Musk had acquired 5% shareholdings in Twitter, who sold their shares between the time that Elon Musk acquired 5% and announced that he had acquired over 5% or 9.2, who sold, were denied value that was undeniably thrust upon the shares of Twitter when it came out that Elon Musk had acquired 9.1% of the shares. So just on this one issue alone, the argument is going to be there are SEC filings that he was required to file within a certain delay, 10 days of having acquired 5% shareholdings in the company. I mean, what do you think of the lawsuit? Is there a professional reliance defense for Elon Musk? Are there any issues like not loopholes? Are there any issues about potential delays from clearing of the clearing of the shares when the delay starts, of him not having realized it? What are his defenses? What do you think on the merits of the lawsuit before we get into the other Elon Musk stuff?
I don't think he's got many defenses on that suit because it's a pretty strict requirement that you have to file once you own more than 5% of the stock under the circumstances Musk was in, unless there's some fact I don't know. He did not do so. Now, there's probably not a big class of people that sold in that 10-day time period and can say they would have kept their purchase had they known Musk had more than 5%. So that's probably not a big deal financially to him. I mean, it'll be a hit, but not much of a hit. But I think ultimately I'll have to pay out. He's currently facing over 1,000 lawsuits, he and Tesla and SpaceX. So, he's publicly said he's unafraid of lawsuits. The two big ones he faces right now are in Delaware. One is the judges, they've already held the trial. It's a bench trial because a lot of these breach of fiduciary duty cases in places like Delaware end up being bench trials rather than jury trials. It was a very extensive trial. Some of it has been broken down by a critic of Musk that's called the Common Sense Skeptic online. The other big famous critic of Musk is Thunderfoot online. And you can, Musk is very good at pushing Musk. So if you want the opposite side, you can go to those two channels to get it. The general expectation is that he will lose at least the one suit, which relates to breach of fiduciary duty, by the way, which is what he and others may have against Twitter if they don't sell to him, which was when Tesla bought Solar City. There were conflicts of interest. He was more involved than he claimed to be, made certain representations that they allege were false. And because he would have to pay that in the current value of Tesla stock rather than the value of the stock at the time, it's a unique aspect of certain damage claims, that could be worth about $13 billion. And then that judgment is anticipated any day now. Then he's facing another case, which is still it has not gone to trial, to my knowledge, which involves his payment structure, whether his payment structure with Tesla breached the board's fiduciary duty in originally giving it to him. So those are the big financial risk for him. There are rumors put out by Fox Business. I talked about them at vivabarneslaw.locals.com about whether there's SEC or DOJ investigations out there. You can go to the last Bourbon with Barnes where I talk about that there, since it's not been publicly confirmed at all by the SEC or the Justice Department. But in this context, Musk made an offer that was above its current stock value, that was above its average current stock value since it's gone public. Now, it's had at times higher valuation. It's been as high as $70 plus trading on the stock market. But what he offered was over $40 billion, and he wants to take it completely private. The board, as people discovered, are mostly a bunch of political hacks, never Trumpers, that kind of crowd. How exactly they got there tells you something about who was putting the board in power. And it probably tells you why Jack Dorsey left. Dorsey, for all of his problems, I think, was more on the free speech side than people like Zuckerberg or Google or Apple are. He ultimately capitulated to the request of the big stockholders or whoever it was that was pushing it. But a lot of the board members, maybe in fact none of them, it's not apparent, have any stock holdings of major themselves. Some of them are not even active on Twitter at all. It's kind of ironic to be a board member on Twitter and not even use it. So they have a fiduciary duty. If you want the economic analysis about poison pills, about tender offers, there's better go to the economics people. They'll give you that analysis. I know enough of it to talk about it in the legal context, but the legal obligation of the board is they have a fiduciary duty to the shareholders. That's who their duty is. And their duty is to maximize value generally. And so if they fail, they will get sued. They will get sued no matter what happens here. If they sell to Musk, they'll get sued. If they don't sell to Musk, they'll get sued. If they take a different offer, they'll get sued. And because different people have investments in Twitter for different reasons. One of the Saudi princes, who owns about 5% or so of Twitter, said he rejected Musk's deal because he thinks Twitter is of higher valuation. The best way for them to get out of it, what's called business discretion. So a board doesn't breach their fiduciary duty if they act within a reasonable business discretion. So even if you as a court or a juror disagreed with their decision, if you saw it as a reasonable business decision based on the information known to them at the time, then they're not legally liable. If they did, there's different. One, they can say Musk's offer undervalues Twitter. So to the best way we can serve the shareholders, and this is different than the stock market valuation. There was some confusion out there that, Goldman Sachs, which has now been hired to help Twitter evaluate the company, talked about its stock being worth $30, some period of time ago. That's still a little bit different than what Twitter's ultimate valuation can be for sale purposes. In the sense that, a board member can say within a year, within 2 years, will be worth X, and that's worth a lot more than this offer on the table. That's usually considered in the law a business discretionary judgment, business within the business judgment rule of defense. So that can be one defense. A second defense can be that they don't think Musk has the financial means to actually purchase it because Musk has not clarified what his source of funding is. And the way they could filter that out is they could ask Musk to document what his funding is. Is he planning on selling a bunch of Tesla stock? Does he have banks willing to invest? Does he have partners that are involved? And that's another legal approach they could take. It would be okay for them to declare. It's why, like, if Joe Blow offers to buy Twitter for $3 billion or whatever, 300 billion, say, they don't have to take the offer or even submit it to shareholders if they don't think it's a credible offer. The person doesn't have the financial means. And the reason why they can decline it out of the gate is if you accept Musk's offer and he doesn't have the means to pay it, you've stuck a price tag on Twitter that's created a low bar for you, potentially in negotiations for other purchasers. So that could be a second round of defense. The third is to do what they call a poison pill. And it appears the board is going to do that, which is to issue preferential stock in such a way to make it difficult for Musk to make his purchase. Now, again, that action will be subject to lawsuits in all likelihood. They could also submit it to the stockholders for a vote, yay or nay on the offer. Like the famous Gordon Gekko scene from Wall Street, where he goes in to pitch his offer about greed is good, and so forth. That famous Michael Douglas speech. That people on both sides, people who like him and dislike him, or like or dislike his character, will quote verbatim. That is also another option for Twitter. But Musk is a serious player. He has his, Tesla's been at around $1 trillion valuation, give or take some 10, 20% over the last couple of months. His net worth is estimated at basically $250 billion. So, he has enough Tesla stock and probably enough partners in banks to be able to actually perform on the funding promise. He could also make what's called a tender, which basically involves going to the other shareholders and saying, I'll offer you this value over the current stock market value, and the sale will go through if X net percentage of people, in other words, a majority, end up selling it to me. But he's expressed his ultimate goal is to take it private. There's different people that have different interpretations of Musk. There's people who have different interpretations of Musk's intentions vis-a-vis Twitter. I discuss some of those at a hush-hush at vivabarneslaw.locals.com.
Yeah,
But
thank you.
I think for those of us who want free speech or at least Twitter exposed, what Musk has done has been a net plus, as exposing the board for what it really is. How is it we have a company that's publicly traded that cares more about its censorship algorithm than it does about maximizing shareholder value? Because that's what the board proved this past week.
And you put out a hush hush for which you took a little bit of flack from a lot of the Elon lovers out there who don't like. And I say, even myself, Robert, I was like, this makes me feel dirty inside because I want to love Elon. I think I still do. You made some
Oh,
good points.
I got close friends. I got a nephew that his only goal in life is to work for him, and of course, hush hushes present an alternative narrative, which, if presented effectively, you believe is my own opinion. About half the time it is. About half the time I am as unsure as anyone else. And about Musk, I'm still unsure. I don't know. But people get real agitated at just the alternative. The Muscovites and the Musketeers get really are deeply committed. And I understand that. You know what Musk promises are fantasy fulfillments, and because he's delivered on some of those fantasy fulfillments, there's great optimism he'll deliver on all of them. There's some things about Musk connected to transhumanism that is why I'm skeptical of him, but I'll get to that in a second follow-up hush hush about Elon. But either way, this has been a net plus for those of us who are critical of big tech. No matter how this comes out, whether Musk ends up buying or not buying it, it will end up in litigation either way. Clay Travis has already said he'll sue if they don't sell to Musk. So the lawsuits are coming, guaranteed.
No, he did it on purpose in the greatest way possible, setting aside the 5% issue. And it's true, now that you mention it, the only people who could sue and have any sort of a claim would be those who sold within that 10 days. And I guess you could see the volume, what that might amount to in terms of exposure. One simple question: professional reliance for Elon, is that not going to be a legitimate defense?
It's not for that sort of thing, though.
Okay. And then Prince Talal, who comes out and says, I don't approve of this deal. It doesn't represent the intrinsic value of Twitter. First of all, I think I might have said Prince Talal had 12%, and I think he might only own 5% because I think Elon is now the biggest single shareholder. So correction,
he was
people.
Vanguard overtook him. BlackRock. There's a lot of, I mean, the people who are wondering what's really up are curious because you have overlapping investors in Twitter and Tesla that have interesting histories, like BlackRock. People can research that on their own. So that's why people aren't sure what's happening. But from a PR public opinion perspective, for those of us who are critics, it's all been up. It's, either this was a wonderful troll of Twitter, or the reality is it really probably can't get worse. In other words, even if Musk has bad intentions, how can it get worse than it's currently at with Twitter? I mean, it's what they censor a little bit more. I mean, it's already clear they're escalating censorship.
Yeah,
there's a great podcast that has a great Twitter account that's been really informative and pretty fair, tries to verify and vouch everything, but from the Russian perspective, called Russians with Attitude. They were kicked off Twitter for like 48 hours until there was a massive outrage. So there's been a lot of that, unfortunately. So I think it's exposed the system and exposed the media. MSNBC came out, Joe the intern killer Scarborough, and his
alleged Robert.
alleged. Oh yeah, alleged. Well, put it this way: interns die while they're working for Joe in Joe's office. That's all I'm saying.
And for anybody who doesn't know it, I mean, Google it. But the bottom line is, an intern allegedly fainted, struck her head on the corner of a desk in Scarborough's office. It was in 2000 or something, and died in his office. I feel dirty laughing at a tragedy, and I'm not laughing at the tragedy.
Scarborough used to pretend to be a conservative evangelical Christian Pensacola Republican. Watch him now and ask yourself, was he ever that? Or was he the Zelensky of Florida? Just a fake actor pretending to be something he's not.
Trump was bringing, that's the first time I heard of it, is that he's called, didn't something happen with an intern? And you read about it, it's like, okay, man, even if I believe the official story that she fainted, lost consciousness, struck her head on a corner of a table and died in his office, I mean, that's fishy on its own. Like that doesn't happen to healthy 20-some-odd-year-old women. So that's Scarborough. But
they actually went out and said this was shocking and horrifying. Musk trying to make Twitter a free speech zone because they're not, then people get to say what they think. And as they put it, we're here to tell you what to think. By the way, for all you war lovers out there that believe in Zelensky and all this nonsense, those are the kind of people you're believing, So but yeah, it's been very revealing about what the media really thinks, as Glenn Greenwald has noted, as Matt Taibbi has noted. These are people coming at this from a free speech left perspective, Jimmy Dore, etc. Aaron Mate, the Gray Zone. Well, it was from Musk doing what he did has been net plus for us. For those of us who are critics of how the media operates, critics of how big tech operates, critics of the lack of free speech, critics of the hypocrisy and duplicity and the censorship, all of that has been a net plus no matter what, however this story ends. But one part of the story is guaranteed to end in court, because no matter what happens, lawsuits are coming.
Oh no, it's amazing. I mean, the way he played it, where he says, "Look, I now believe I have to buy the company, take it private to make, I can't do it via my 9% shareholding. And if you don't accept my offer, I'm going to have to."
Musk puts Trump to shame in terms of marketing, and the man is a master troll. I mean, he actually put out he previewed that he was going to make a tender offer as his backup, as his plan B, by tweeting out he really enjoyed the song "Love Me Tender." I mean stuff like this. He retweets memes all the time. He's a big fan of Babylon Bee. So that's why people can think, that whatever else is behind the scenes with Musk, the guy's a brilliant. What's undisputed, even his critics acknowledge, he's one of the greatest marketers in history.
That much I agree with. And for good or for bad, Robert, like in your hush hush, when you talked about him coming out with that idea of bringing a submarine through these narrow caves in Thailand, and then when he gets shut down,
he managed to dodge a jury verdict after falsely calling a guy a pedophile. So, that tells you how good he is at presentation. Now, he had the benefit, that poor sap had Lynn Wood as his counsel. So you can see why that case went the way it did, the plaintiff. But yeah, Musk is a brilliant presenter, brilliant marketer, and he's exposed Twitter and exposed the media just by offering to buy it, which is really, really revealing.
People are Viva versus Musk. Viva would win, as Musk would be blinded by the glare on Viva. Said, "Yeah, I think the I can't do this now." Okay, that's a little bit. It's not going to get better than that. Okay, so lawsuits one way or the other, and look, and for everyone out there, Prince Talal does not have any more authority to refuse the deal than Musk does to accept the deal. It has to go through the directors. If they submit it to the shareholders, that's the only way, I think, for the direction to get out of it without a lawsuit, or the best defense. Submit it to the shareholders and see what they say. We'll see about that. Okay, what was there anything else with Elon Musk this week?
I think that basically everything Musk related is right there.
Okay, guys. So stay tuned. SEC, Robert thinks it's pretty straightforward. I do wonder if there's a technical defense, like the stock I bought, but it only cleared 3 days later, so I had an extra 3 days.
Yeah,
so maybe that
might be a fact we don't know. I mean, if the facts are accurate in the complaint, he doesn't have much of a defense. He's got to write a check, and he may have been willing to do that from the get-go. That he cared more about getting to 10% before anybody knew. That he did an economic analysis of what that would cost him. That it would cost him less to pay out a settlement than it would to let everybody know before he had to up to 10%. He was right below 10%. So he may have made what's called an economic breach decision, which is it's a theory of law out of the University of Chicago in particular. Posner and others articulate it. I don't quote those guys much because I hate them, because they're pricks. They're absolute pricks. Posner, Easterbrook, all of them. Some of the most contemptible human beings on the planet. I've got good rulings out of them frequently, but I really hate them as human beings. But it's a school of thought that sometimes it's economically efficient to breach, that it's okay to suffer the damages because you're going to personally profit more in the end. He may have made that economic calculus and done what he did. And he was probably right if you look at how the valuation went. In other words, if you think that valuation would have spiked at 5%, in other words, if you would think he would have had to pay more to go from 5 to 9.9, then you look at that valuation versus paying off just the people that sold in that interim, he probably profited. He probably made a profitable deal.
That's what they said. They said he pocketed, I think it was, he netted or saved 150 million. Okay. Yep. If he announces he owns 5%, it goes up so much more that if he buys another 4.1%,
and
it's going to
he's not going to owe, the number of people who sold isn't going to be 150 million. Yeah. It's probably going to be a third of that.
Very interesting. Okay, that's good. That's the old
And for a guy
expression.
that's worth, as long now Tesla, this depends heavily on Tesla's stock valuation, but when you're worth 260 billion, 50 million doesn't bother you much. Just being realistic.
And what it was a mentor of mine in law, who said one of the things is, why pay now if you can pay later and you're going to pay the same amount later. So sometimes and factor in the cost of a lawsuit. If you can, negotiate. If I owe you $100 today and you sue me and we settle for 70 later and it only cost me 15 to defend, it's a net profit of 15, or a net gain of 15.